4 years of my time, 1 crore of capital. I agreed if I don't solve for it, I'll be back sitting on the shop and doing this.
That's the deal Mithun Sacheti struck with his family as he set out to set up CaratLane, and it was not an easy road.
I used to go begging to every VC in Bangalore every single month, and every month they'd say, good progress, come back next month, and nothing would happen.
No dazzling offers, and a diamond in rough stayed that way until
I got a LinkedIn request saying, hey, I'm Tiger Global, run $14 billion, a fund this size, why don't you come and see us? I missed out to go and see it because I frankly thought it's a Nigerian scam.
From that to a mega investment from Tiger to getting Tatas to the table to a dazzling exit with dizzying valuations. This is the story of CaratLane. From 500 odd crores to a whopping 17,000 crores in under 8 years. In a candid conversation with ET Samita Sharma, Mithun Sacheti reveals it all. The hunt for funds, the clarity from market veterans such as Rakesh Jhunjhunwala and Ramdev Agarwal, and the much talked about valuation debate with the Tatas. And what's next? A fund and possibly an NBFC. It's August 25th and you're listening to the dizzying diamond story of CaratLane here on The Morning Brief.
Congratulations from selling to strategic titan in 2016 and now a full exit. How's it been like? Take us through the twists and turns till you signed off the deal.
Let me draw back a little bit to a few years back on this, maybe 7-8 years back. And I'll tell you my thought process at that point. 2008 end when I started CaratLane, my background and my entire experience was that of running a family shop called Jaipur Gems, the business out of Bombay. I was a shopkeeper. I started from there. And then there was this feeling that I make great jewelry, but, I serve, and all family jewelers in India actually design jewelry for the classes. They want to go higher and higher up in their average selling price all their lives. They feel like the rich customer is the one who they want to sell to, or super rich customer, and that's when they feel they've arrived. They don't feel it by the volume of customers that they serve at all. Yeah. That's just not even an understanding in their mind. I moved to Chennai to build that over here when I was 21. Chennai, Coimbatore, Dubai is what we built, except after that. Then I realized that the number of customers I was serving was 3,000. It's not a per store, it's not an exciting number when you think about it from what it takes to sort of build a business. You make beautiful jewelry, you go meet people, everybody keeps telling you, oh, it's great jewelry, it's expensive. And that used to irritate the life out of me that, everybody would tell me that. And so I decided, okay, I got to do something differently. And the best way to do that is on the internet. That's how CaratLane was born in 2008 as such. When I started out, I didn't realize the kind of money it will take. You're sort of naive at that point and you sort of jump into it and start the business into it. Nor did I realize that what challenges will come forward. You just think it's your birthright. You build a business, somebody will come and buy.
What were your reference points in 2008 for something like this?
I had no reference point at all in India. I was looking at, Blue Nile was a business in America. And that was one reference point that I was looking at. Nothing really other than that. My exposure levels were very low, Samita. I was not so exposed that I really knew what is out there. I just knew the power of the internet as a user. I didn't know it as a business builder as such. Yeah. And I knew the power of what I wanted to create. I felt that jewelry was always going to be this image-based thing. And I had read enough to say that images will become dominant over conversations on the internet over a period of time. Basically just jumped in head on without thinking too much. It's one of those things you do in your 20s that you don't think like all the way through to the end and sort of jump into it. But first year, I realized very early that I need to stay in this business long. That's when I'm going to be able to solve for it because it's not so easy. It's not like just because I opened a website, people are going to start buying as well. Yeah. So we built a B2B relationship with Titan. And that B2B relationship with Titan really was very, very handy for me at that point because it solved for cash flow. Because the total investment I have made in the business is 75 lakhs. And so I needed money. And, I had agreed with my family to sponsor 75 lakhs in 4 years of my time. That's just how we built the business.
Very ambitious goals. Like,
Actually, yeah, the thing is when you come from a successful business, everybody
yeah,
says, why do you need to do this? And
yeah,
that's what you're looking to solve as well. And so
yeah,
that was my problem that I was wondering, how to convince my family that I'm running a super successful jewelry store in Chennai. Why am I trying to do this? So 4 years of my time, 1 crore of capital. I agreed if I don't solve for it, I'll be back sitting on the shop and doing this. In that time, I got this relationship with Titan, which helped me build my B2B business. I would help them sell solitaires to their consumers, a product they had very little idea of. So all Tanishq stores had an internet pipe which gave them real-time inventory of what solitaire they can sell. And I
okay,
would source them anywhere in the world and procure and deliver it to them real-time in 5 days. So we built that model for them in 2011. That gave us our first big sense of revenue, 35 crores we got. And we knew that from that point on, we will be able to sort of build a business out. 2011 end, we got lucky. We raised money from Tiger Global. Really, frankly, I used to go begging to every VC in Bangalore every single month. And every month, they'd say, good progress, come back next month, and nothing would happen. And typical Leaf Excel style, I got a LinkedIn request saying, hey, I'm Tiger Global, run $14 billion, a fund this size. Why don't you come and see us? I missed out to go and see it because I frankly thought it's a Nigerian scam.
yeah.
And
And
so
it's very hard to find things on. I mean, now in the past 5, 6 years, there's so much being written about. Actually, last 8 years, but I'm assuming in 2011 you couldn't find anything on Tiger Global and Leaf Excel.
Samida, there was no website of Tiger Global.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I go to Delhi and I have been at it for 1 year with Nexus, with Helion, with Axel, with everybody, trying to raise money for a year and meeting them every month. And whatever, Sherpalo and every other fund that was
Yeah.
there around at those times. And they also great progress come next month. And I remember Nexus had just told us, yeah, we'll give you a term sheet next month. I mean, I didn't even understand, but I thought that was great. I'm getting closer to it. And then
Yeah.
comes this guy, signs Flipkart, signs Myntra, signs everybody. And so I
Yeah.
go to Delhi to meet him. 1 hour into it, I swear he had more data about my business than I had about my own. And then we agreed that he gave me a $6 million term sheet. And, after that, there was no looking back.
How did your family react to this? I mean, they would not know
No, they
the
didn't
deal
accept
of
it.
Tiger Global.
Yeah, no, they didn't know. And they thought there is something wrong with this. Nobody gives money like this. I
Yeah.
had to fly to New York because there's no website, right?
Yeah.
Go to his office, meet Chase Coleman, meet Julian Robertson, who basically started Tiger at that point.
Yeah.
And that one day and verify that this is a true fund,
Wow.
And then I did this transaction. It was a day trip to New York. I reached in the morning, stayed at some days in, I still remember. I had lunch with him and Chase Coleman. At night, I flew back to India just to confirm to my family that this is a true business out there. So that's really how they reacted and we sort of got going.
Now, 6 million was your first external raise, right?
Yes, it was.
That was
It
big
was,
at that time. That was a large check.
I mean, yeah, that was a large check, but not many people had 40 crores of revenue also at that point, right? So though my revenue was B2B, but I still had revenue and others didn't have something like that either. Also, most people were taking pre-revenue or just after product launch, PMF, sort of they were raising money. And because I solved for cash flow early, I was able to sustain it for significantly longer.
Post 2011, what was the trajectory?
So our consumer business was about 12 crores. At that point, we had this B2B business both put together. We were at about 40 crores approximately in terms of revenue in 2012. And then business kept growing steadily till 2016. There were 2 more rounds of funding. Totally, we raised about 50 million from them.
So Tiger was your sole investor, right?
I had only one investor. I didn't believe in 2 investors.
But how was it like on the business side at this stage? E-commerce was still sort of fledgling, but there were a lot of other startups which were coming up in the space.
If you looked at the number of users, I was always going to have a small number of users because that's the nature. I'm at 1 million customers this year. But whereas all these guys would talk about such large numbers and my rate of change in my industry was slow, rate of change in their industry was much faster. So I had to pace myself for that. And I realized in the 13, 14 time after raising money, I was chasing their rate of growth, which was relevant for their industry. And I think I burnt unnecessary amount of money at that point, chasing to try and be like Myntra, be like Flipkart or anything like that. I could never be like them. And I had to realize that. And so in 15, Bhaskar Bhatt came to Chennai one day and he came to see CaratLane. And I would ask him every time. I'd like send a message across to him, like we're around, we'd love for Titan to participate. Then he visited our office and he saw all the way we thought about business. It was very different from the way Titan thought about business or Tanish thought about business. And so he really liked that. And then at the end of the day, he felt like this is the place I want to invest, because he felt the first time he had visited a jewelry business where he was learning something as well. And they had a different way of doing. And he reiterated that back to me today. So that's why it's fresh in my memory once again. And he said it was a no-brainer for us then to do the deal. And so I had to convince Lee Fixell, who had just put 30 million in, sort of take an exit at that point.
Was Tiger keen on exiting at that point?
No, they were not keen on it. But I told him that, look, I think a fund has 10 lives and an entrepreneur has 3 lives, but a business has only 1. 200 crores of capital cannot build the kind of trust that the Tata name builds in a business itself also. So we should really allow them to come in. After that, we'll build a great business and everybody will see a great outcome. He agreed to it after that email. It was like an emotional plea. But somewhere along these situations of Flipkart, etc., he needed to show some exits, etc. So he decided instead of staying, he'll exit the whole thing as it is. And so that's how in 2016, we were 140 crores of revenue. And Titan came in and they bought 64% and change of the business.
What was the valuation of the company?
563 to be precise, actually.
And you were loss-making at this point?
Yes, we were loss-making, Samita. We were about maybe 30, 35 crores a year loss-making at that point.
But there was a turning point somewhere in terms of the way you ran your business. How did it sort of unfold?
So that's the interesting part of this journey. In 2016, when this transaction happened, I met my mentor, friend, consigliere, Rakesh Junjunwala through Titan. And first thing I remember getting there and he was like, what is this nonsense? I don't believe in these loss-making businesses, etc., all that stuff. But over a period of time, I explained how this can make money and it made sense to him. And he sort of backed me a lot then after that. 2018, 17, I went to him. As you asked, it's very difficult to work with a strategic. And I was really struggling working with Titan. I was not able to find my feet in the company. And 2 people, one was Bhaskar and the second was Irina Vittal, who was on the board of Titan. Both I went to for counsel on that. Bhaskar invited a couple of other people that day, Ramesh Damani and Ramdev Agarwal, illustrious people of the
market.
And then Ramdev Agarwal explained about how companies who do 30% growth over a 5-year period do a massive compounding on the business. Even so, I went there thinking to tell him that I might want to sell my stake in CaratLane. And he convinced me and I went home and my co-founder and me both were unhappy. He was not operating the business. He was more giving me counsel. And he said, no, you can create value.
And if I recall correctly, your co-founder, Srinivasa Gopalan, also sold his stake and you bought it over.
I borrowed money to buy that. I didn't have 5 rupees in my pocket, but I borrowed 50 crores to buy him out. So he had invested 26 lakhs and he left with 50 crores then at that point.
Wow.
So we started building from that point on, new energy, new everything. 2018, we wanted to raise some money from Titan. We raised 99 crores. We were about 414 crores in revenue at that point. So we had obviously done well for ourselves from 140 to 414 in 2 years. But loss-making, and that I realized at that point that loss-making businesses in the eyes of strategic don't get great value. And so they invested at about 900 crores. We were disappointed. But I realized that day that now from this point on, I'm only going to build a profitable business. And in that, I must say that the current MD of Titan, Venkat, was extremely helpful in terms of helping me understand what focus I need to have to make this whole business profitable. And that was a watershed moment for us. From that point on, we've managed this, 55% CAGR and compounded our business, where last year we did 160 crores of EBIT and about 2,200 crores of revenue. What a strategic brings, which a fund doesn't bring to your business, is absolute focus on the health of a business. Whereas what a fund brings to you is absolute focus on scaling your business. The fund is such a short tenured partner in your journey from Kanyakumari to Kashmir that he gets in Madras and he gets off in Bombay. Whereas these guys will make me get off now and they'll continue running this across as well also. And that fundamentally is a big difference in value creation. So what you see as value creation has happened because of that. And that understanding role that both Bhaskar Bhatt played and Venkat played, without that, I don't think we would have been where we are as well.
We spoke elaborately on this when I had spoken to you first about the Tata deal. While I know valuation was not a consideration, but over the past few months, there has been a lot of back and forth, and they had appointed a banker. How was this valuation derived at, Mithun?
It was a negotiated value. See, the bankers by themselves in a role like this, frankly, there's no role of a banker at first. Because if you think about the buyer and seller are known to each other.
Yeah.
So there isn't one.
Yeah.
I have never sold a business in life, and Titan has never bought anything like this either. Also. So Bank of America on their side was guiding them, but there were so much of public multiples available on CaratLane because in the sum of parts of Titan that data is available, we were clear that we had to be closer to that. And as a buyer, they have a prerogative to basically negotiate, right? So the negotiation was on and it was unnecessarily becoming loud. It sounded like it's a war. It was nowhere close to that. When we sat in the room, the principals, which is Bhaskar Bhatt, Noel representing Tatas, and me, sat in the room, the entire discussion took 7 minutes. The rest of the 53 minutes, we were talking about aviation and US and economy and everything else which is going on.
But now everything is done. You've signed the deal. What next? I mean, you've been investing. Is there a plan to sort of launch a fund? Is that in the pipeline? Any new venture lined up?
Scott Fitzgerald said that beautifully. When you're in your 20s, you see the world from top of a mountain. Every opportunity is a rolling stone. And I'm now in my 40s. And it's like I sit in a cave and all I want to do is protect what I have. And so I want to find the right opportunity. And one great advice that Kunal Shah gave me, cred, that he said that you're going to feel like shit after 2 days are over. And then don't make any decisions for the next 3 months. Sit and wait and then deal with it. No big decisions. Figure out all the stuff that you didn't do with your friends and family around and focus on all that. So I just want to deal with all that stuff right now. Don't want to think about beyond these two things right now, which is investing through a fund and the Oro business. This is a BFC that we are trying to create around gold lending storage, which is lockers on that.
Do you lend from a book of yours?
Yeah, we are building our book now, just waiting for the NBFC license.
So what is this fund structure? Is it more like a family office or like what is it?
It's evolving at this point. Samita, what I'm trying to figure out is one, of course, be large LP and sponsor and fund. But I don't think I have the skill sets to be a GP yet on something like that. So work with smart people who sort of build this out.
How is the fund structure? Are you going to have like different vehicles?
No, not yet. Not overthought that whole thing. Now, I think it's too early to have done a lot of that stuff. At this point, it is too... but yes, my deep desire is to get into that side of it, which is investing through a structure and hopefully someday be qualified enough to take that route deeper.
After months and months of headlines of funding winter, governance issues, delayed and dismissed IPOs, CaratLane has definitely added the glam back to Startup Street. And all eyes will remain on Mithun on what he does next with the kitty he's packed in. But the spotlight definitely now shifts to the Tata Group and what Titan does with the much-discussed buy. Many like JM Financial argue that though the 2,900% jump in valuations are eye-catching, Titan still managed to grab CaratLane cheaper than the street was anticipating, pegging the valuations north of 24,000 crores. Cheap or expensive is moot. And now all that matters is the balance sheet as e-commerce continues to grab market share in the jewelry business. This is definitely a lane Titan wanted to cut into and fast at any cost. But will it continue to shine? Well, only time can give clarity. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of the Morning Brief podcast. A shout out to the team that put this together. Indranil Bhattacharya on sound, producer Sumit Pandey, executive producers Arijit Anirban, and your host for today, Anupriya Nair. On that note, have a great weekend and you'll hear back from us on Tuesday.